Walking on hot coals was a life-changing experience for me. We built the fire together, and then we went into a teepee for a 3-hour workshop to learn about being able to walk on them. We talked about focus and how in our everyday life we may have a goal, but we allow other things that are happening in our life to distract us, and we don't end up taking the steps we need to reach that goal. We also talked about our fears. The instructor said it was really important to talk about our fears. The instructions were simple. Walk up to the coals, see yourself on the other side, and walk like you know where you're going. We went out and the coals were raked. We were to enter on one side and get off on the other side, and then we could circle around and walk again if we wanted to. The first thing I had to do was give myself permission not to walk. There were people there who had walked before and other people who were new like me. There was a 10-year-old and there were several teenagers. I don't think I would have had the courage to walk if I hadn't watched them doing it. Here they were walking on the coals right in front of me. And I decided if they can do it, I can do it. So I stepped up, saw myself on the other side, and walked. While I was on the coals, I thought, this is easy. Like, I thought I was going to have to do something. But all I had to do was make the decision. It was amazing. I went home feeling high and asking myself the question, how can I use what I've just experienced in my everyday life to make things easier? I continue to ask myself that question, and I've learned a lot, some of which I'd like to share with you today. But first I want to tell you about the second time I walked on coals. The next year there was another fire walk, and this time, after we built the fire, we stood around the fire and watched it burn down and had our workshop. We talked while we were there watching. I thought that since I'd done it once, it would be easier the second time. It wasn't. I was just as scared as I had been. And again, I don't think I would have been able to do it if there weren't people walking on the coals right in front of me. When I was ready, I stepped up, saw myself on the other side, and walked. In the second step, I felt a burn. I was so shocked. I got the rest of the way across the coals, and once I was in the cool dirt, I could tell that it wasn't a very bad burn. But it really shook me up. I knew I had to walk again, but I was so scared. The only question was, could I get through my fear enough to walk again that night, or was I going to have to wait another year for the next firewalk? I struggled with those feelings, and I was down to the last. I had to make the decision. I decided I could do it, and I stepped up, and I walked, and I didn't get burned. I didn't tell anyone that I had gotten burned. The next day I talked to a friend on the phone. I said, I feel like such a failure. And she said, you walked again. That's not being a failure. I said, yeah, but it seems like I did something wrong. Why did I get burned in the first place? So I worked with these feelings that I'd done something wrong and I didn't know what. And after a while I calmed down and I realized I had missed an opportunity by not speaking up the night before when we were all together so that we could all learn. I knew that people had gotten burned walking on coals, but I didn't have a need to know anything more about that until it happened to me, and then I needed to know. So I called the instructor. She said, oh, you got kissed by the fire. We call that a fire kiss. She said, the fire is intelligent and your body is intelligent. And sometimes when you're dealing with a challenge in your life, the fire will give you an extra burst of heat to help you get through that challenge. Look at a reflexology chart and that will give you an idea of what the fire was working to help you with. It was such a relief to hear her explanation. It was so simple, and it meant that I hadn't done anything wrong. My message for you today is that the pathway to living the life I really want to live is through connecting with and feeling my emotions now. If I acknowledge how I feel now, I'm free to feel differently. Whether that's a few minutes later or the next day or the next month. If I don't acknowledge how I feel now, I carry those emotions with me wherever I go. There are 3 points I would like to emphasize. 1, emotions are energy in motion. I feel that energy in my body. 2, emotional energy initiates action. That action may happen so fast that I'm not consciously aware that the action is from the emotion, but emotional energy always initiates action. It could be yelling or moving my body, hitting, exercising, going for a walk. What I've done a lot is cry and shut down on that emotion. Another thing I do is distract myself through eating or working or any number of other things. 3, all energy contains information. If I judge the emotions I feel and think that I shouldn't feel the way I do, I'm unable to receive and acknowledge the information that's held in that emotional energy. And as a result, the action I take from that energy, with that energy, may not support me in moving in the direction that I want to go. In order to walk on those hot coals, I had to acknowledge my fear and feel it in my body. Then I was able to make a new choice to trust, and that initiated the action of walking on the coals. When I got burned, I learned something new. I learned that my choice to trust doesn't mean I won't be hurt. But I always have the opportunity to learn from my experiences, and I can learn from being hurt. The key is to keep the emotional energy moving. Up until recently, when I would feel hurt, I would clamp down on that energy and it would get stuck in my body. Our bodies are really good at holding emotional energy for us, but eventually they can't do it anymore, and they demand our attention through pain or other illness. After I got burned, in a matter of minutes, I was able to fully feel that fear and connect with it and let it keep moving so that I could make a new choice to walk again. For me, success doesn't mean I do it all perfectly with no mistakes and it feels good. Success means I choose to show up, acknowledge and connect with how I feel, take the action that seems appropriate, and learn from what happens. If I ask 100 people what their ideal life would look like, I will probably get 100 different answers. But if I ask those same people, what does your ideal life feel like? I will probably get the same basic answers. I want to feel loved, valued, appreciated. I want to feel like it's safe to be all of who I am. And I want to interact with other people who feel the same way. Emotions are what we all have in common. No matter our age, our gender, where we grew up, who our family is, whatever our position in life, we all experience emotions. Emotions are a gift. I have realized that every emotion is valid. My interpretation of what that emotion means may not be accurate, but the emotion itself is valid because it gives me information about my interaction with life. And if I can slow down and get that information out of the emotional energy, the action that comes from it can help me move in the direction I want to go in my life. And there will always be more emotions. I can feel fear and get the information out of it in that particular circumstance or situation, and I'm going to feel fear again because life has more information for me. So the goal is not to not feel fear or any other emotion. The goal is to let the emotional energy move through me so that I can gather the information from it. You have gifts in your life where you are right now. And the key to receiving those gifts is fully acknowledging and feeling your emotions. I practice every day accepting how I feel about what's happening in my life. And I've learned that when I acknowledge those feelings, my body doesn't need to hold the energy. It can release it. And then my body can heal from whatever problem it has. I've been helping others learn how to do this, and I'd like to help you too. What is your emotional reaction to what I've been sharing here? I'd love to hear about how it's affecting you. Please make a comment below. You can also vote for me if you want to, and that will put you on an email list for this Are You a Messenger project. And you will receive a link later this year when the documentary film is made to be able to view the film online for free. If you know of anyone else who could be helped by hearing my message, please send this link to them so that they can watch the video also. Thank you.